We begin this hour with the tension between Ukraine and Russia. The Biden administration is looking for a diplomatic solution to avoid escalating tensions between both countries.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken spoke with Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov earlier today. The call follows Monday's emergency meeting on the UN Security Council.
During the meeting, U.S. and Russian officials exchanged barbs over the Ukraine crisis. Moscow accuses Washington of fear-mongering and causing hysteria, saying Russia has no plans to invade its neighboring country. The U.S. blames the Kremlin for endangering world peace by amassing troops along the border with Ukraine. CBS News' Skyler Henry has more.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken spoke with Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov on the phone today, urging Russia to withdraw troops and equipment from Ukraine's borders and emphasizing invasion of Ukraine would be met with severe consequences.
It is our goal in all of this to attempt to influence Moscow's decision-making and Moscow's calculus.
The U.S. says Russian President Vladimir Putin is deciding his next move as Russia continues to increase its military buildup with more than 100,000 forces now circling Ukraine, including in nearby Belarus.
These are combined arms capable forces. So it's not just infantry, for instance, it's artillery, it's air defense. He's got a full range of military capabilities available to him.
The State Department has issued a travel advisory to Belarus and ordered family members of U.S. government employees to leave the country. Family members of embassy personnel in Ukraine were ordered out over the weekend. CBS News has learned that after consulting with Ukraine leaders, President Biden is prepared to announce a new U.S. ambassador to Ukraine. President Biden will ask Congress to swiftly approve Bridget Brink to be the ambassador in Kyiv. Congress is also working on a bipartisan bill to put new sanctions on Russia.
I hope that we can find a solid bipartisan approach. I hope that we're moving forward with sanctions now, not after the Russians invade.
There are also sanctions being drawn up which could be used if Russia does attack. Skyler Henry, CBS News, the White House.
CBS News foreign correspondent Holly Williams joins us now from the Ukraine for more on this. Hi, Holly. So you were on the front lines in Ukraine earlier today. Tell us about the scene on the ground there.
You know, it's really interesting because there's all this talk about a possible Russian invasion, all this speculation about whether it's imminent. But when you talk to a lot of Ukrainians, they'll tell you, hang on, our country's already been invaded by Russia when it seized control of the Crimean Peninsula back in 2014. And we're already fighting a war against Russian-backed separatists in eastern Ukraine, a nearly 8-year-long war that's taken more than 14,000 lives, according to the Ukrainian government. So for a lot of Ukrainians, Russian aggression isn't a possibility. It's already a daily reality. As you said, we were out in the front lines earlier today, just a few hours ago. Every time I go there, I just think how similar it is to the First World War. It almost looks like something out of a movie. It is trench warfare. The conditions are incredibly difficult, freezing at the moment for the Ukrainian soldiers. And then when you get to spring, everything turns to mud. They're literally living in the mud. We were on the front line last June with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, and the entire entourage was literally slipping around in the mud. There is a ceasefire in place, but there are essentially daily violations of that ceasefire, sometimes hundreds of violations of that ceasefire. And in fact, the soldiers at the position that we visited said that just yesterday, a Ukrainian civilian had been hit by sniper fire.
Wow. You know, we keep hearing that word de-escalation, Holly. Secretary of State Blinken spoke with his Russian counterpart, Sergey Lavrov, today. Was there any progress made?
So this is all part of these sort of diplomatic efforts to try and resolve this crisis without bloodshed. Blinken and Lavrov met last month in Geneva. Since then, there's been an exchange of written documents. The key issue really is that Russia says, despite the fact that it has roughly 100,000 troops on Ukraine's border, it is the victim of aggression by the US and NATO, and it wants security guarantees, including a rolling back of NATO troops from Eastern Europe and a ban on Ukraine ever joining NATO. The US and its NATO allies say that those are non-starters. They can't agree to those. The US has come up with some alternative proposals, but they don't really seem to be doing it for Moscow. In fact, we just heard from Russia's President Vladimir Putin in the last few minutes. He's holding a press conference. He said it is clear that Russia's principal concerns are ignored. In terms of that conversation, the key point from the account that we have from the US State Department is that Secretary Blinken again reiterated that if Russia invades Ukraine, it will be met with swift and severe consequences.
Swift and severe consequences. Holly, the White House, though, continues to fear there's a, quote, distinct possibility that a Russian invasion could happen this month. Do we have any idea if this assessment of the timeline is accurate? What are you hearing from the troops in Ukraine?
You know, it's so hard to know what President Vladimir Putin's plans are because he's not typically one to signpost them. In fact, we recently interviewed a retired US general who described Putin as a disruptor, i.e. he likes to take people by surprise. That's how he does business. In terms of the choices that President Putin has, I think broadly speaking, he has three. One, he could stage a full-blown invasion. That would almost certainly be incredibly bloody. The US has said that it would be horrific. Secondly, he could do something much smaller, a smaller attack, something punitive, a smaller incursion, or number three, he could just stay where he is. He could add more troops, he could add more hardware, he could turn up the pressure and try to get what he wants. What is it that he wants? What is his bottom line? Well, a lot of people think that Vladimir Putin's bottom line is this. He wants Ukraine to be brought back into Russia's orbit, perhaps even become a puppet state of Moscow, certainly not be an ally of the US and NATO.
Holly Williams in Ukraine, thank you so much.